So I'm here to talk to you guys about now HPE Cloud Volumes. So we're just going through a rebranding process. It was called Nimble Cloud Volumes, and as we transition through the integration process, and I think all the web pages and the portal and all that are all in the process of being rebranded and updated now. And again, happy to be part of the HPE family. So, kind of where did the concept of Nimble Cloud Volumes come from, and what was the driving forces around that? And really, when you take a step back, we really wanted to focus around the applications and look at the specific types that were moving to the cloud. The first type, and these are really mature and being in the cloud for a while now, are what you would call your cloud native applications. Your content apps generating a lot of content, whether it be your Instagrams on the consumer side to your Office 365 or Dropbox that are used by businesses and enterprises. The interesting thing is, when you look at how these applications are using the cloud today, specifically storage, you'll see most of these are leveraging object-based cloud services such as S3 or Glacier or Microsoft Blobs. And they're not necessarily leveraging the same type of storage technology we're using in on-premise storage. They're designed for the cloud from ground up, right? Using native APIs. S3 is an API-based REST API protocol. So again, a very different approach to how they built their applications and how they leverage storage. The second class of applications, and this is really the area we have chosen to focus on with HPE Cloud Volumes, is really around the enterprise applications. And these are more of your traditional business apps, right? Your ERPs, your relational databases, all foundational in what most enterprises do for a lot of their back-end business systems. So anything that's backed by an Oracle database or a SQL database or SAP-based business applications. And interestingly enough, right, these apps typically use block storage, right? As part of a SAN, like a 3PAR or a Nimble array or an EMC Dell array. And because of that, right, they're really foundationally architected and designed for on-premise architecture. And for a variety of reasons, most of these apps today are from the outside looking in terms of their cloud adoption. The primary reason for that is most of these apps, because they're built for on-premise, in the cloud today, we're really missing some of the key enterprise-grade capabilities and service levels that these apps require. So let's double-click into that quickly and look at some of the challenges specific to block storage in the cloud. So again, focusing on the block storage and not necessarily the object storage, which is much more foundational and popular within the cloud today. So when we're looking at block storage, I'm talking about cloud services like EBS, right? Amazon EBS, Elastic Block Storage, or Microsoft Azure Disks. These are all block storage services that you can get in the cloud today, and they have some significant challenges. So the first area we see of challenge is really around the durability and capabilities of this cloud block storage. Amazon EBS, for example, has a published failure rate of 0.2% or 1 in 500. So what this means is if you don't back up your data, you have a real chance for data loss. And we have spoke to customers that have lost data on their production databases that they tried to run on EBS block storage. Second to that, the block storage in the cloud today has limited capabilities and feature sets. They take a long time to do data backups, hours, even to back up a few gigabytes of data. They have very limited scalability. Up until a few months ago, right, the largest volume size you could create on Azure was 1 terabyte. They've since increased that to 4 terabytes. But if you're talking about enterprise class database, right, a couple of terabytes is not really where you want to be. You want to be able to scale further than that. And then even the simple ability of clustering and sharing data across different VMs in the cloud is again limited or not available with these cloud storage offerings. The second is around cloud lock-in, and this is people have talked about this before, and the area associated with this is really twofold, right? There's always some level of lock-in, whether you're using on-prem or using cloud. But within the cloud and within data and storage, there's a few things that make it worse, right? Number one is the more data you have, right, the more difficult it is to move that data around. So that's really that concept of data gravity, which really limits the mobility of data. The second is really around, what people don't know this as much, is what they call the data egress costs. And this is actually the costs that Amazon or Microsoft will charge you if you're trying to move your data off the cloud, whether you want to repatriate your data or you want to move it to another cloud provider. They typically charge 3 to 5 times as much as you would store the data to get the data out. The third concept or challenge is really around what we call the black box penalty. And the black box is really the concept of, you sign up for a cloud service, you get an SLA, right? You get a certain amount of storage, and you should be happy and off and running. The problem is you really have very limited visibility of what's going on underneath the covers. And the biggest complaint we hear from customers is, when they start using the cloud, right, 1 month their bill is $10,000, and the next month it's $50,000, and they have no idea kind of how they got there. And that's really because of the lack of visibility in terms of the cloud reporting tools and really the ability to see what's going on underneath the covers. So, with these challenges in mind, we really set forth to solve these with HPE Cloud Volumes. So when we introduced this about 6 months ago, it was still in beta. And Cloud Volumes is an enterprise-grade multi-cloud storage service for running enterprise applications in Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. Now, the way we've built it out is it is a complete HPE Nimble Run cloud service. So it is a public cloud service built on the HPE Nimble technology, hardware, software, and cloud services, APIs. And what we do is, right, we're there providing the storage or the cloud storage, and we enable AWS and Azure to continue providing the compute or the VM instances in the cloud. Now, to ensure customers get a good experience and low latency access and good performance, right, we ensure that our cloud or our cloud data centers are deployed in close proximity to both AWS and Azure. And we've actually done benchmarking against this. And what we see is our performance and latency is on par or better than the native cloud storage services that are out there today with both EBS or Microsoft Azure disks, right? We're getting the same level of performance or better. Now, I think there was a question in the feed earlier about what's the difference between multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. And the way I'll address this, and I'll address it through the presentation, is really the way we see it is, multi-cloud or hybrid cloud is really a subset of a multi-cloud strategy. So we do believe a multi-cloud world includes your on-premise data center and includes your on-premise infrastructure and the ability to move your data, not just to one public cloud provider, but ability to have access to multiple public clouds, as well as your on-premise infrastructure, is key to a multi-cloud environment and foundational to a hybrid IT strategy and making it more simple. So I'll drill down into each of these buckets of benefits throughout this point of the presentation. So 3 key areas is really around delivering an enterprise-grade storage service, easy data mobility, as well as global visibility, so customers really know what's going on underneath the covers. So let's drill down. Oh. All right. Yeah. All right. There we go. Back to presentation mode.
It seems like this is as much a financial play as it is a data stability and flexibility in your multi-cloud architecture. Would you agree with that?
So, what's interesting is, from a financial standpoint, obviously the pay-as-you-go model, the low barriers to entry, because customers can get started on this for, as low as $500 a month. It's definitely a compelling selling point for customers. That said, in our experience so far, just, now about 3 months into production, what we've seen is, what it really does is it creates stickiness. And I'll talk about this in a few slides is around the data mobility and the cloud readiness of your on-premise infrastructure. People today are still investing in their data centers, and having a cloud service that easily talks to your storage arrays actually makes that decision of purchasing for your infrastructure and future-proofing for the cloud much greater than that. So what we haven't seen is customers just say, hey, we just want to use this as the cheapest alternative, because again, it's not necessarily geared towards being the.
But there's nuances to placing your workloads in the cloud, particularly large disk volumes up in the cloud, and not just the storing of the data, but the data egress when you ultimately decide it's not functioning well for you. If we're doing volume sort of a scenario, we're not really pulling that data away from AWS anymore, right? It's a completely different financial model.
That's right. So that's one of the things that we do promise is, even though it's sitting in our cloud, right, there is no data egress charges if you want to move it back on premise, right? And again, because of the way we've designed this, there is no egress. Yeah, and there is no egress between, AWS or Azure as well too. So that is a big point for customers in understanding that, once you put it in, there's no tax, and it's a big tax to pull it back out.
Yeah, overwhelming.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the feature sets here. And then again, I do have a demo plan as well. So, first we wanted to, in terms of having an enterprise-grade service, we wanted to make it simple and reliable. I'll show the simplicity through the demo, right? I'm just a marketing guy. I'm going to demo the whole thing and run the whole demo live. So wish me luck. But it's simple. And, web-based GUI, APIs, everything's built into this.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Real quick, John, Snoop J1230 on Twitter.
I was waiting to ask that question.
He did ask you, what do you mean by close proximity to Azure and AWS data centers?
Yeah, so what that means is, both Azure and AWS have they would basically guarantee single-digit millisecond latency, like less than 10 millisecond latency, for their storage services. So we get similar or better latency within Cloud Volumes, and we're also actually able to deliver more IOP performance. So we're able to deliver up to 50,000 IOPS per volume on Nimble Cloud Volumes. So we're actually, again, meeting or exceeding. So that's really what we mean is, again, AWS and Azure, they don't necessarily allow you or publish their exact data center locations, but we place our data center as close as possible to what we know, and we test it to make sure that it has, sub or less than 10 milliseconds of latency for storage access.
Lisa, the only reason I bring that up is I'm starting to see a trend of other storage vendors who are working with these public cloud providers and are actually getting into those data centers to be able to provide the services rather than being at least in close proximity or just outside. So,
yeah. I mean, it's again, this choice is being in is going to be sub millisecond when you're in the same data center. It's really based on choice. Again, for multi-clouds, a lot of times Microsoft and Amazon might be in different buildings or across town. So there are a lot of choices, and it does vary by region. But yeah, our choices have always been obviously to be as close as possible. And it's not dictated by costs. And what we know is actually building a cloud service, your data center costs are probably one of the lowest costs, as well as the storage actually is one of the lower costs when you look at the overall cost of the cloud service. So yeah, absolutely. That's something we're looking at. The one thing we're differentiating on is really, again, I'll show it through the service itself, is really building a cloud service from ground up rather than just having an array or a storage device attached to a cloud where you would still need to manage it as a storage device or an array, which is what most of our competitors are doing. This is really built up as a cloud service from the ground up.
And thinking about the egress costs,
Mm-hmm.
so that putting an array in the cloud, when you bring your data around, there's an egress cost. Because you're cloud adjacent, there's an egress cost for every write to the array, isn't there? That a read is an ingress of data, that a write is an egress.
That's right.
So there's an asymmetry in the cost there.
So there is, yes. So that's transparent. So we state that as part. So the way it works is there is an egress cost for writing into our data center, basically, or into our arrays. That egress cost is managed through a different link system. So it's actually at a much more reduced rate. So
yeah, because you have a direct connect.
Yeah. So what that works out to be, and again, this is based on InfoSight analytics and how much data writes are happening and change rates and all that. What we see is the add-on, and we basically count it as add-on cost that shows up on your AWS or Azure account. Usually works out to be 2 to 3 cents a gigabyte, right? So it's a relatively low cost when you compare it to the storage charges that you get. Okay, so a couple things on the capabilities. In terms of reliability, we built this up to be millions of times more durable. That's based on our backend data protection and triple parity RAID schemes. We have built this based on our 6 nines availability on the storage backend. So again, you get a much better SLA. And again, we also have 256-bit encryption that's provided here. If you look at what's in the cloud today, right, with EBS or Azure, right, you're looking at 99.95 availability and a 1 in 500 failure rate. Data protection. So, one of the things we're bringing with Cloud Volumes is the ability to do, instant snapshots and clones. So with instant snapshots, we're able to, again, do copies and backup of data within seconds. More importantly, and this is, again, where some of the savings customers really see, instead of making full copies and pushing a copy out to S3, which is typically what Amazon does, right? We're able to do this and only charge for the change data. So only the incrementals are charged for, and that's really where customers are going to see a big savings in cost. So when you compare that to, again, the native services where it takes hours to back up data, and again, you got to pay for a full copy of data when you do that. Copy management, and this really comes from our ability to do instant clones of our storage volumes and data sets. I like this feature set. It's pretty cool, and I'll demo it in a short while as well too, is that this really enables some of the cool cloud use cases that people talk about, right? Whether it be test dev or cloud bursting. So you have the ability now to instantly create dozens or hundreds of copies of your storage volumes and spin up new machines to attach them to. So this is again for your Black Friday bursting load that you want to do. What's cool about how we do it is we could do it instantaneously, virtually in seconds, and because again we have thin clones in our capabilities, even if you make 100 copies of that data, you don't actually pay for anything. You only pay for any change data that's written in. So for the cloud bursting use cases, it's very economical for customers to do that and really incur very little incremental charges. Okay, don't go racing. Okay, second point, mobility. So, first thing we wanted to make sure was, again, the hybrid cloud scenario, the easy ability to move data between on-premise to the cloud, right? So how we're doing this is we're enabling our arrays to be cloud ready to talk directly to Nimble Cloud Volumes and replicate data into the cloud. Second, we want to enable MultiClap, right? To enable customers to leverage both AWS and Azure at any time. So through the portal, right, you can easily attach a volume to AWS or choose to attach it to Microsoft Azure. They could do that without any data migration. And if they want to repatriate the data and move it back on premise, again, there's no additional charge or data egress charges within that.
I saw a little bit of your thunder. What about GCP?
GCP is on, we're looking at it. I mean, based on all the customer interactions we've had, I think it's probably less than 2%, right? The conversations. Yeah, today. Yeah. There's definitely, there's a lot, right? Supporting 3PAR, supporting, other solutions as well. Just like InfoSight, we have to choose kind of what's up the stack, across the stack. how we're integrating.
Is there any conversation around the hybrid type world or the OpenStack world? Maybe moving it to Rackspace as a partner, something like this.
Yeah, those are possibilities too. I mean, I think HPE definitely has a OpenStack portfolio as well. I think what's interesting is we can already run our arrays under OpenStack Cloud in a private cloud scenario. So all those APIs still correlate. So it's whether or not you want to be able to do attaching the VMs and all the other stuff that we do from a provisioning standpoint. So all those APIs are in place. It's just again, based on all the other checklists and priorities.
Right. I mean, when the market is say 2% for GCP, and the rest of the 98% of the cloud-based machines are sitting on these two platforms. Again.
Yeah. No, I think our biggest ask is just how many more data centers are we going to roll out into? Because we're not rolled out in all the data centers yet. So that's actually probably the biggest request.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could Cloud Volumes be utilized as almost a migration tool from one cloud service to another cloud service? Say you're on Amazon now and you want to move over to Azure because you get a better deal.
Yes, that's exactly it, right? So you can migrate without actually migrating, right? It's really just swapping the connection, right? If you see in the diagram here, we're connected to both clouds. You just say, I'm going to attach this volume, I'm going to detach it from Amazon and attach to Azure, either because I'm getting a better price or I'm getting a better SLA, I'm getting a new service that's deployed in Azure that I can't get in Amazon. It doesn't really matter, right? It gives you that flexibility.
So it's not like a heavy lift for that, it's just a
No, it's basically through the portal, right? You can select AWS or you can select Azure, right? You just swap that selection.
Okay, a quick question from, I didn't set up earlier, was that I work for a service provider. So if I'm multi-tenanting my storage array in this particular one, am I able to dictate the various accounts for that particular customer? Either send it to that customer's Azure subscription or send it to their AWS subscription and then manage it from a multi-tenant perspective? Or is it that each array is only allowed to go to one subset?
So the arrays themselves are multi-tenanted, right? The arrays are multi-tenanted and multi-cloud. So the arrays, the back end of Cloud Volumes can attach to any cloud provider, can attach multi-tenant to multiple customers. What we don't have today is it's completely HPE Nimble Run service. So what we don't have, and it's being requested, is a white label offering for our service providers to say, hey, here's the whole kit and caboodle. I want to attach it to AWS in my own cloud, right, and offer this to my customers. That's something that we haven't done yet. Okay. And the last point is really around global visibility, and then we'll get to the demo. So, one of the key things, again, Calvin touched upon this with InfoSight, is really having full visibility across the stack. And really what we are now doing is extending this into the cloud with Cloud Volumes. So, really that visibility of seeing where your data is, right, whether it's in the cloud or on-premise, right, that's going to be huge for customers. The second point, again, I alluded to at the beginning of my presentation, is just around tracking and managing usage. And that's a huge thing too. And what I'll show you in the demo is, as you're deploying volumes, as you're making changes, all that information around costs and tracking your usage is shown to the users right away. So again, there's no surprises when they get their bill. The other things around InfoSight with our predictive engine, really, as we see it, AI for the data center, now extending into the cloud, will allow us to predict, to recommend, and ultimately optimize how customers choose to place their data, where they place their data, and how to optimize the usage of that data across different endpoints, across different locations, across different cloud providers.
Hey, Doug, real quick. On that predict, recommend, and optimize, could that be expanded to user behavior to try seeing if something was accessed that hasn't been accessed in a while that could draw a flag?
Yeah, that's a good question. We definitely we're able to look at how much data is being read and the activity on a volume and all of that. But that's a good point. I'm not the InfoSight expert, but it's definitely, again, this is part of the telemetry that we're pulling in. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility to pull insights into that. We definitely look at, for example, for VMs and QoS, we have noise and neighbor detection, for example, right? So we can easily detect whether there's a VM that's causing a hotspot on the storage or the VM itself that's overloading, and then make recommendations on that. So that's one way of looking at data usage patterns and making recommendations. But as you say, yeah, it could be used for archiving, for aging, anything you could do to make recommendations on that.
Yeah, because I just worry that if you can detect something that hasn't been accessed in a while, all of a sudden you get these files that haven't been accessed in a while, and someone starts accessing them, it could be a potential breach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing to look at. So I just want to point out, right? Most, all the cloud providers today, they require either third-party tools, right? Again, that's why if you went to AWS reInvent last year, you would have saw that there was a plethora of third-party tools, whether you're about monitoring usage and costs, monitoring and providing analytics across the cloud stack, or monitoring any of the infrastructure that's available there. The cool thing is, again, we have InfoSight that's already doing on-prem. Now we're extending it to cloud, so we're a step ahead of the game because most of those other vendors, third-party vendors, are just looking at a cloud-specific or cost-specific framework. All right, so we talked about those. So yeah, as I mentioned, right, one of the key things around Cloud Volumes is making hybrid IT simple, so ability to use your storage arrays with the cloud. And again, we believe this is foundational to HPE's hybrid IT strategy. And again, this is a big selling point for our customers, is knowing that your investment in an all-flash array or a hybrid storage array, knowing that's going to work with cloud today or in the future, right, makes them much more comfortable with that investment moving forward. All right, a couple things. I got a pricing slide, and then I'll jump to the demo. So I'm just showing you guys pricing mainly because it's a cloud service. This is on the website as well too. So again, unlike what you'll see from most of our competitors, and much more like AWS and Azure, right? We publish our pricing on the website, right? So we have two offerings. One is our premium flash service, and the other is our general purpose. This works. Yes, our general purpose flash service. So premium will give you the highest level of performance SLA, starting at 12 cents per gigabyte. And general purpose will give you the best value, right? So you have a little bit lower performance SLA, but you're starting at 10 cents per gigabyte with some IOPS bundled into that pricing. But very simple, right? Per gig per month pricing, per IOP per month pricing, and an SLA tied around that. Okay, now let me just see if I could get my laptop. Just do the HDMI, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see. All right, looks like my VPN was disconnected, so I need to connect to the VPN. The only reason I'm connecting to our VPN is I'm actually connecting up to a storage array. So I'm actually going to show you guys the storage array replication feature. Right. Okay, so like any other cloud service, if my screen stays, like any other cloud service, we start from the web, right? So Nimble Cloud Volumes, this is our landing page on nimble.com, cloud.nimblestorage.com, or nimblestorage.com/cloud. This will be migrating over to the HPE website in about a month. But again, everything's listed here. I mentioned the pricing. You see the pricing's listing here, just like AWS or Azure. You get all the information you need right there. Now, to get to the cloud, right, again, you do the sign-in page. So let's make sure this loads, and I'll actually sign in. Jay's account. So this is our production environment. As you saw, I went directly from the website. So I log into the portal here, and what you see here is a quick listing of all the storage volumes that we have provisioned underneath this account. And you see there's few here. You see there's varying sizes, varying IOP configurations, different cloud providers, and data center locations with AWS and Azure, and then the network configuration and VMs that they're attached to. So, again, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. One of the things I want to show is really how easy it is to make changes with Cloud Volumes. So if I click on this one, Doug 1, which I created a few days ago, you see it's a volume here that's configured for 1,000 IOPS and 200 gigabytes right now. It's actually pulling the InfoSight data right here. So you see here we have some of the performance analytics, and we've been running different benchmarks on this. So you're actually seeing the IOPS, read and write IOPS being generated here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a quick change. And let's just say, again, I could change the size, which is something you can't do on AWS or Azure, or the performance, again, something you can't do in AWS and Azure. But why don't I just bump this up to 2,000 IOPS, right? So if I bump this up to 2,000 IOPS here, apply next. And what you see here is, hopefully I didn't get disconnected, but I actually have a remote desktop instance here. So in this remote desktop instance, let's make sure changes were made. Okay. And then if I stop running a benchmark on this machine right now, and if I restart the benchmark in iometer, and what you see here now, after I made the change, right, automatically this volume now is configured for 2,000 IOPS, as I just did that in a matter of seconds, right? Again, easily making changes on the fly, pushing those changes into production. Again, this is a EC2 machine, Windows machine. I'm on a Mac Windows machine running on AWS EC2. If I switch back over to the browser now, what I'm going to do now is actually do array to cloud replication. So the first thing I need to do in the cloud is set up what we call a replication store. So let's click over here, replication store. Again, very simple. If I go replication store, let's just give it a name, Doug Replica 2. Yeah.
Is that a hard limit, or is that a quality of service guarantee?
So it's a ceiling.
Guarantee 2,000 always, or is that?
Yeah, so you are guaranteed based on so our premium service level is 99% guarantee on the IOP delivery rate, and our general purpose is a 95% IOP guarantee. And it is designed to be a ceiling. So you won't be able to exceed that. But again, you can make those changes on the fly, right? So you realize that you do need more performance, right? You could go in mid-month, midday, and make that change and apply that. Flip is also the same, right? If you think you have over-provisioned the IOPS you need, you could just turn it down and you save some money. So I'm going to set up a new replication store. This is really basically the ability for us to create a capture bucket for data coming in from oncoming arrays. Let's just make this a terabyte in size, and I'll just select our premium flash and the US East region. You see here, right here, the price. Again, very transparent to customers, right? So no surprises here. When you're deploying a replication store or a volume, right, they know what the estimated costs are right away. All right, so I'm confirming this. Now that replication store hopefully is able to talk to array. So what you see here now is I'm going to switch tabs. I'm going to go to this 10.64, and obviously it was disconnected. So this is actually a Nimble storage array. So let me just log into the storage array. So this is an array sitting in, I think, in our labs in San Jose, in our headquarters in San Jose. So just bring up the dashboard. I won't spend any time going over our array management GUI and my HDMI signal. All right, but what I will do is, let's take a look at how we set up the replication and data protection. So, from this standpoint, we're at the array, we want to replicate the data to the cloud. So if we go into data protection, and here, what you see here, we have a bunch of volume collections. These are volumes that are already set up, right? And what we need to do is set up what we call a replication partner, right? So this is basically from the array saying that I need to be able to talk to the cloud. So let's create a new replication partner to talk to the cloud. You can see here we already have some that are set up for the cloud, but let's add a new one. And we have an option here, right? You can either replicate to another storage array or replicate to the cloud. So select cloud replication. Again, I enter my Cloud Volumes credentials. Right, username and password for Cloud Volumes. It authenticates, right? Once it's authenticated, now I can decide which replication store or bucket I want to replicate to. So the one I just created was Doug Replica 1 for 1 terabyte or 1,000 gigabytes. That's why it shows up as 0.98 TIB. So I select this one, right? This is the replication store I want to replicate to. I select the inbound location to where I want to store the local snapshots, and I'll select my own folder here. Click Next and create. Right, so now the replication store is created, and now it is actually, as you see, it's created and connecting to the cloud. So again, instead of making you guys wait for it to connect, usually it takes a minute or two for it to connect. What I can do as we're waiting for it is actually attach a replication policy to some volumes that we have. So Doug Replica 2 is a collection of volumes that I have here. So I could configure the replication. And now, since I've set up the Cloud Replication Partner with Replica 2, right, I could just select that. I'll just go generic. And again, you can create a new schedule, right, based on this replication. In this case, hourly snapshots and replication. So this will replicate hourly to the cloud, right, and save that. All right, I think it's still waiting for it to connect. So as it's waiting to connect, what I'll do is I'm going to switch back over to the cloud portal volume here. And you see that we have the replication stores. What I'll also show you is the replicated volumes. So the replica volumes are volumes that have already been replicated to the cloud today. And you see there's a few here, Doug Array 1, Array 2, and NCV replica. So this is one of the volumes here. And what I'll do here is actually show again how easy it is now that the data is being replicated to the cloud. How can I use it within the cloud today? So data is replicated. What I want to do now is actually create a clone of this volume to attach to a EC2 or an Azure VM instance. So I could select any snapshot I had from the past. Let's select one from yesterday on the 16th. And I create a clone of this again pretty much instantaneously. And let's just say clone Doug. And what's interesting again, even though you have a certain IOP requirement on-prem or with a cloud volume, right? This could be a clone that you're going to run high performance analytics on. So let's just give it 3,000 IOPS, right? And again, I have a choice, right? AWS or Azure, right? Do I want to attach it to AWS or do I want to attach it to Azure? In this case, since I have the AWS EC2 machine up, let's just pick that guy. From here, very simple, right? I select my network configuration that my EC2 machine is on. So this is pre-populated when we attach your AWS account. I select this VPC virtual network and deploy. Again, you can see here the price is estimated, right? No surprises for customers when they do this. The charges for this is primarily based on the IOPS, right? This is a little bit higher charge because we're deploying 3,000 IOPS on a 2 gigabyte volume. Now the clone has been created, so I go back to the volumes page. You'll see here the NCV clone Doug has been created. Now the last step I need to do is connect this back up to my EC2 instance. So I selected the network configuration already. The only thing I need to do now is add the VM. So I'll go add cloud VM. And now that I provided the network information, I can see the different VMs that are associated on this private network. So I select this machine. This is the .219, I know is the one that I'm logged into. So now I have connected it. Now what I need to do is, again, provide my connection script for the iSCSI initiator. So again, it's a Windows machine. So I'll just take this script, and this will be used in PowerShell. So I take this. Now I switch back over to my EC2 machine. Send it away. Go to my PowerShell window. Make sure. Oops. Come on. All right. All right. If it lets me paste it. There you go. I think that hopefully should work. Yeah, sometimes I gotta paste it twice, copy it twice. All right, let's try it again. Use that as well. All right. There we go. There you go. So now it's actually connecting up the volume. And if you see here on my disk manager, Windows Disk Manager, the new volume just popped up on the bottom here. So a NCV Replica Demo 2. And again, if I go into, if I can maximize this window, and I go into Window File Explorer. Yep, I'm almost done. So if you go in here, NCV Replica Demo here, and again, you see that the data is replicated, attached. Again, this is the EC2 machine, right? And then, if I just click here, it's just a text file.
Quick question for you, just
yeah.
Real quick for that. Are you able to delegate, I guess you could say, quotas to users when they're creating these? So I'll have some guy who goes in there and says, hey, check out replicate everything.
Yeah.
Sure. My budget or?
Yeah, no, for sure. So the way it works is you could definitely have, as an admin, assign quota to constituent users, and you could assign both the restrict the number of gigabytes, right, or terabytes that they're able to deploy, or IOPS that they're able to deploy.
Will they be able to split that based on what cloud they're using, or is it just at the user?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that. Probably just at the user level at this point. Now, the interesting thing is, again, the charges, right? The charges will still be, these are Nimble or HPE charges, right? So you get that on your cloud bill. Your AWS and your Azure bill are still completely separate. So yeah, actually that's really it, right? So I showed you, setting up a volume, changing a volume, creating a replication store, and now actually replicating data into the cloud and attaching it to your EC2 machine and reading it, right? So again, we think it's pretty cool, right? We do this directly through a web-based portal, right? So again, I'm just a marketing guy. I'm not an admin or an engineer. So I think it's pretty cool that we could do this pretty simply on the fly and deliver this as a cloud service, pay as you go, for customers to use.